Hey fellas, as always, please, please, please do not target, harass, bully, dox, or attack anyone showcased, referenced, or featured in this video. This is just my personal commentary on some nonsense that's happening on Twitter right now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Japan back in action here, talking about something else today. About something else? We're going to be talking about some gross stuff today, so if you just ate, have a weak stomach, or are a fan of heart, or a fan of butt, consider watching one of my other lovely videos, or just clicking off this one and waiting for the next one. Because this is going to get pretty fucking gross pretty fucking fast. You know, when Rainfurrest ended back in 2015 and was permanently discontinued as far as conventions go, those individuals that attended suddenly found themselves needing other conventions to go to, now being deprived of what would be considered by some to be their home convention. All of those wonderful memories they shared suddenly lost to the world, like tears in the rain. Or piss droplets when you take a little tinkle in the public urinal. When I think of Rainfurrest, I often think of this picture where Rick and Morty bear witness to the cringe that was Rainfurrest. Thanks in part to the legendary internet historian and a rumor mill, as far as conventions go, Rainfurrest had a very specific notoriety that followed it as far as its reputation went. While a good many normal-ish people attended Rainfurrest year after year, there was a particular subset of attendees known colloquially to the rest of us as babyfurs and ABDL diaperfurs that had also routinely attended the convention, which Rainfurrest seemed to have an unusually high concentration of. No longer being able to attend the convention they'd routinely attend as their haunt over the years, their attentions turned outwards to find somewhere else to go. And so other conventions would receive them as attendees shortly thereafter. I remember seeing a couple of these Rainfurrest refugees attend conventions like MFF and Anthrocon, with only a couple being considered problematic both by me and other attendees. Unabashed and unashamed, they crinkled in public. It was the first time I'd ever seen a diaper furry up close. Talk about culture shock. I can remember it like it was just yesterday. I was spending time out and about with a certain lady friend walking down the street. It had just rained recently, so Pittsburgh was looking especially vibrant and lively as the sun cast its iridescent rays across a landscape of concrete, asphalt, glass, and steel. I looked to her, only to see past her at this fat, slovenly man-child of pale complexion and curly blonde hair sprawled out in an alleyway, legs spread out, on the open ground like he didn't have a care in the world. Our eyes briefly met, glazed over as they were, for in that brief instance in time, he seemed to occupy a space far removed from where his physical body lay, his consciousness gripped by what could only assume to be drugs. The look on my face betrayed my sense of horror as she looked to me with concern and asked what was wrong. I asked her if she saw it. She shook her head and asked, "Saw what?" And I shook my head and said, "Never mind." I would not burden her with what I had seen, but the image is burned into the back of my retinas, a permanent scar in the back of my mind. Now, if you're curious what they look like, they kind of remind me of that guy from that episode of Rugrats where the adults host a costume party after putting the kids to bed, and a latecomer to the party asks to borrow a bedsheet, saying he'll be the baby. As in, the adult baby that ends up chasing Tommy, Chucky, Lil, and Phil throughout the party, being utterly confused why a big baby is following them around the house full of what they can only assume are witches, ninjas, cowboys, and other fantastical portrayals of people or characters in the Rugrats universe. That wouldn't even be the first time I saw him at the con, or the last, because he definitely had a look about him, if you know what I mean. As for the diaperfurs mentioned being problematic, both were chastised harshly for disposing of their used diapers in public areas, incidents of which occurred at Anthrocon and Midwest Fur Fest. Oh, I wish I was kidding. The long short of it is, if someone has to smell it, they don't want to deal with it. And among those things that smell really bad, that's your poop, and poop's gross. I think we can all agree on that. The reason I mention this to you is because the furry fandom is a very diverse place, and we're just as diverse, if not more so, when it comes to our kinks and fetishes. So much so that there's a consistent reminder people say whenever controversy builds up around a particular kink or fetish. Don't kink shame, bro. No kink shame, no kink shame. Keep an open mind, bro. Now, obviously, that doesn't carry for those kinks or fetishes that are actually just crimes against humanity or animals in disguise, i.e. pedophilia or zoophilia, but I digress. Obviously, what you do on your own time is your own goddamn business. Now, what do you do when you find out that what someone's into is abso-fucking-lutely disgusting? You try and reserve judgment, but it's just so gross and disgusting that you just cannot bear to look at that individual the same way again. Well, I mentioned babyfurs and diaperfurs as they have in recent years kind of represented what some of us would be considered the outer fringe of kinks and fetishes. Oh baby, you ain't heard nothing yet. Y'all ever heard of scat?
I'm a scat man.
Even scat.
What's scat?
You know, scat. Droppings. Like what you're standing in. See?
I really hope Scatman John was just referring to the style of music he did and had no interest in that sort of stuff. But yeah, scat, poop, shit, bullshit. It's as disgusting as it sounds. And yes, there are people into it. God help us all. I am convinced that we as a fandom drift further and further away from God's holy light each and every day. It's generally not a problem when you keep it to yourself or in the presence of consenting parties that are into that sort of thing, as in not sharing your fetish with random strangers online or in public that may not be so into seeing you get your freak on, especially when it involves something so disgusting, but you know furries, loud and proud and oh so willing to play show and tell everybody everything about what they're into. Almost to a fault. Why the fuck am I saying almost? Absolutely. Fetishes and kinks go in every direction and are available in every flavor to satisfy, comfort, and titillate the imaginations of furries everywhere. Not all of them so wholesome or pleasant to think about, let alone experience or bear witness to firsthand. But hey, so long as no one's being harmed, exploited, or abused, it's generally okay. But what's not okay is when others have to find out about it, or have to be exposed to it firsthand. See, the fandom has a problem with people unaligned and unaffiliated, let alone uninterested, being exposed to things they wanted to know nothing about. Between the ABDL and diaper furries out there, no, they're small potatoes compared to some of the other things I'm aware of people being into. Artists will explicitly state that they refuse to draw anything related to scat, or diapers, or gore, or anything like that. Less problematic scenarios are the pup hoods that some pup furries take pride in, that get them into trouble with other furries that think pup hoods are gross. The pup hoods thing is whatever to me, but not everybody wants or needs to hear about your kink or fetish or what could be conceived as a kink or a fetish or has connotations relating to sex. If you're offended by this, would you talk about sexy fetishy stuff at work? I'd hope not, unless you're a sex worker, in which case, go wild. TMI is a real thing. It stands for too much information, a simple premise that the furry fandom struggles to come to terms with. Even Diaperfurs have become cognizant and aware that a good amount of the furry fandom isn't quite ready to embrace their way of life or receive them or their fetish with open arms. Although, it's worth pointing out that some of the Popufurs, YouTubers, TikTokers, and VTubers that you happen to follow have an interest in diapers or are ABDL furries themselves. I'm not one of them, but then again, I don't know what you're looking for in a YouTuber. I usually go by the idea that, so long as it isn't hurting anybody, I guess it's okay as my personal coat for not kicking this up into an unnecessary issue. Most ABDL or diaper furries usually self-regulate to a certain degree and try not to make their activities known beyond one another, though I seem to remember a girl that launched a one-woman crusade against their very existence not too long ago and got doxxed for it. She went out of her way to try to expose them to the world with an almost irrational hatred and condemnation of them being the source of the fandom's problems. So, you know, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But I say all that to you to say that certain stigmas and negative connotations do and will continue to exist around certain things out there that people come into contact with. So what's the issue here? Why am I padding this video with so much seemingly unrelated exposition? Well, it's to mentally prepare you and provide a little context for why people might react to what I'm about to tell you all the way they do. I couldn't help but notice a lot of noise on Twitter fairly recently in the lead up to Furry Week in Atlanta. I couldn't go this year, unfortunately, but I went last year and had a great time. You see the usual posts about people either on their way or arriving in and around the area, but there was one particular post that stood out to me as the sand against the grain. Kimbah calls attention to the fact that in a post that there's talk of an insidious plot by a group of furries on Telegram, openly suggesting in jest that they are going to take their fetish to the next level. That they're all going to link up and take a big fat shit in the pool. Which pool? Presumably the Atlanta Marriott Marquis, playing host to Furry Week in Atlanta as we know it year after year. No! Not the pool! Anything but that! Oh, the horror. It was gonna be poo! Poo! Poo everywhere! Somebody with IBS and incontinence entering the pool chat after they spent the last 3 days eating nothing but Taco Bell, and their ass is now on fire from those Arcanine-ass flavored Takis everybody's been talking about. Needless to say, when news of this hit furry Twitter, everybody just about lost their shit. There was immediate shock, awe, outrage, and disgust. So yeah, if you have an interest in this sort of thing, how's about you do us all a favor and not only keep it to yourself, but also keep it the hell far away from the rest of us? But yeah, The rumor and screenshots to go along with it did evoke a fairly immediate and visceral response to all who bore witness, and everybody felt compelled to either add their 2 cents, make calls for the members of the plot to be publicly named and shamed, or just reacted in the way most of us otherwise would, by saying that shit's gross. So there was now suspicion amongst furries that this was some sort of insidious plot cooked up by some of the most depraved furries in existence, not only revel in their fetish, but also ruin some poor bastard's time and attendance at FWA. FWA attendees collectively aren't perceived as the best or brightest the fandom has to offer, and I have friends that absolutely refuse to go, dismissing the con as Bug Chaser Con. Blech. Evil Saibai need not apply. They don't think very highly of the people that wind up attending FWA, but I went and had a blast, so, you know, perceptions can vary considerably, but FWA has had a little bit of a sordid reputation as far as conventions go. Would still highly recommend it, though your mileage might vary based on my experience that happened last year, whenever that video will come out. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, the FWA poop plot was not on my bingo card for the list of dramas that would play out before the convention even began in the first place. And FWA certainly didn't do themselves any favors with this weird banner they came up with. PEEE! Poo-poo pee-pee. Paradigm Employee Engagement Event. Might as well have taken inspiration from SpongeBob when they came up with POOP as an acronym for that training video. People order our patties. Others, however, would insist that there was actual confirmation that this was absolutely real, to be taken seriously, totally sure, guys, and that there were some nefarious Darius actors out there that were willing to enact this foul plot and actually do this. Unwilling to reveal their sources, however, we can only take their word for it. Good thing I'm not going, right? Not only is this highly gross and unhygienic, but it poses a serious public health risk as swimmers are unknowingly or knowingly exposed to a biohazard. Your poop's a waste product of the body and is excreted for a reason, and depending on what you ate or your individual health conditions, could pose a risk to otherwise healthy individuals out there. The issue comes down to the fact that fecal matter typically contains bacterial agents and pathogens that could prove harmful to your health if you were to swallow contaminated water accidentally, and having that on you ain't gonna do you any favors. So please, shower anytime you take a dip in the pool, preferably before and after. Several types of bacteria and germs have been shown to survive chlorine in the span of days, so while the chlorine does a good job of keeping the algae away, it won't save you from everything out there. With this were concerns about minors being present to either bear witness to, or be exposed to something so vile and heinous. So the carrion call came out using a very old meme that was in vogue when I was young. Pool's closed, motherfucker. Anybody remember Habbo Hotel? Habbo Hotel was a social game meant for young teenagers and middle schoolers, providing a socially oriented space for them to hang out with their friends on, with their cute little avatars designed to their specifications. And 4chan took great fun in coordinating what were dubbed Habbo raids, where they would hop on Habbo Hotel to harass young people for the goofs and gaffs of it. I never took part, but I had friends that did. One common social spot in the game was the pool, so a typical 4chaner would adopt a black man avatar, give him a stylish ass afro, get his riz on with a stylish ass black suit, and then link up with his fellows to block access to the pool, stating, "Pool's closed to anyone seeking entry." Yeah, I know. Pretty sad, trivial, and juvenile. But no, this actually caused a lot of problems for players. Countless middle schoolers' social lives were ruined in the process as all the trolling and griefing took place. But hey, you cannot deny the meme-worthy image it spawned as a result. This did bleed into real life, where a 4chaner managed to trick at least one pool into closing down, reason being due to the risk of AIDS. And that was the meme, existent years past, now more relevant than ever. So yeah, we seem to have come full circle, if only it were meant to be. So apart from the visceral reactions and absolute assurances from concerned parties that this was absolutely a real thing, was there any proof as to there being a plot by some really disgusting people? Well, if you actually take the time to stop and read the screen caps instead of just blindly buying into the hype, apart from the mentions of scat and off-colored poop jokes and other mentions, I didn't really see an explicit declaration or plan by those in chat that they were absolutely going to be linking up and shitting all over the place in the pool or anything like that. So what channel did this even appear in the first place? There is, or at least supposedly was, a Telegram chat group known as the FWA Filthy First Scat, 18 plus of course. Why they felt the need to name it that way? Why didn't they just name it FWA Chess Club or something like that? At least then, they probably wouldn't have attracted so much attention to themselves. It'd be like the Legion of Doom labeling one of their secret hideouts as the Legion of Doom Secret Hideout, where anybody and everybody can just see and read the sign and just kind of shrug their shoulders and go, well, I guess that figures. And of course Blue Wolf was mentioned as being in there, because of course she'd be mentioned by others as being in there. Several times, in fact. Yeah, truly unfortunate set of circumstances following her. Please just leave her alone at this point. Okay? Anyway, the Telegram group appears to have either renamed itself or was deleted as news of its existence and some of its conversations appeared in the public eye, if it even existed in the first place. NovaCatWuffs would come out and decide to put this rumor to bed almost immediately. Apparently, all of these screenshots were taken completely out of context, and the OP was making a mountain out of a molehill, deceptively cherry-picking and taking things out of context. Okay, I'll go ahead and read this in full and see where we wind up. An explanation about pool parties at FWA. Greetings! I know I haven't been around Twitter for an extended period of time. Truthfully, I've been busy with my education and I'm graduating next week after the conclusion of the convention. Cool! That's not what this is about. What I need to do is provide an explanation for no context screen caps posted this morning all across social media. I want to share my side of the situation. It's really bad situation all around, and I'd like to provide some context to this situation to provide clarity. I feel it's the correct option to be taking. I don't wish to hide anything. I want to tell the truth and own up to what, in my opinion, I feel was an unprofessional and frankly unfunny joke I made last night while sleep deprived. Part 1. Context. Let me preface this by saying the last thing I'd ever want to do to any member of this fandom is hurt anybody or put them at risk. The reason I stated in this receipt seen below and mentioned the 2-foot pool area was due to context, which the person who started spreading this screenshot conveniently leaving out the part where I mentioned this was in context to me falling out of the pool inner tube in this image seen below, which was taken at FWA 2024. You can kind of tell by the blurring of the photo and my angle, my arm position, that I was starting to tip over. I did end up falling over into 2 feet of water, which you can see myself mentioning in this screenshot in the log here. Some people immaturely thought it would be funny to say I defecated in there, creating a biohazard. As you can see in this screenshot here, this context, this message you can see below, states somebody making an out-of-pocket joke based on what I said in the screenshot to your right. This is what's gone viral and leaked all over social media. Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Telegram chat groups. The list goes on. As seen in the image to your right, this did not happen. I simply flipped over in landing in 2 feet of water area. Here's another screenshot I've seen floating around. I've censored the sender's name for courtesy and privacy's sake. If you were to scroll further up, you can see that this individual is referring to 100% sanitary pool parties. If you read the message below, you can even see that this individual was shocked to find out that they enjoy fecal play or even have a scat fetish. Part 2. My explanation and closing. Right off the bat, I will admit I've been sleep deprived and stressed about school and my personal life the past 2 and 3 months. And I have deterred a few people as a result of these stress-induced outbursts I've had. It isn't appropriate, and I've been seeking help from professionals as a result, which has done wonders for myself. Last night at 12:50 a.m., believe me, look at the timestamps, it was late, dog. I made the joke using chlorine to kill the smell off the poop stench in a sarcastic manner, not thinking people would take it all that seriously. This joke came from stuff I'd read about online about people at hotels doing this in the past. You can see this right here. I made a happy face as a way to indicate writing this off as a joke. I feel awful knowing people took this the wrong way and want it to be known that I was joking. I use the term unironically to further support this, thinking people would be smart enough to figure out that this was a joke. It breaks my heart to see that people did not see it this way and went further along with the joke. Again, I absolutely do not condone that behavior. It is disgusting, unsanitary, and poses a health sanitation threat to all those around yourself and the convention as a whole, attendees and visitors both. The last thing I want to do is hurt anybody. I just got caught in the middle of an unfortunate situation of screenshots out of context with other members of the group who may not share the same common courtesy as me. I am ashamed and morally disheartened that people thought my joke was a literal suggestion. As a result, I have removed myself from the group for my own well-being. I have been in close conversations with FWA staff, sending them complete logs I've gathered to clear my and any and all other confusion. If you still have concerns, worries, or thoughts, please use FWA's official ticket system to get in touch with them ASAP. If you wish to talk to me about this situation, I will be more than happy to discuss it with you. I want to make this right and dismiss or diffuse any concerns a con attendee may be having. My Telegram is SquishTheCatWolf. If you can find me on Discord at NovaCatWuff. Thank you for your time and consideration. Have a great day. I hope we can all just move past this and have a great convention. Your friend, in time, Nova. Aw, ain't that just sweet as a pea? Okay, I mean, some of these explanations do sound plausible, and he seems sincere enough. Just, some of his lines of delivery come off as kind of hokey. I just like how he keeps repeating and emphasizing the fact that he's been preoccupied with school and his lack of sleep as a constant reminder that Nova ain't playing with a full deck, I guess. For what it's worth, Kimbah would end up deleting his original post, as did a few of the others that spread the material far and wide in the first place, presumably after Nova's explanation made its rounds and people got to see it and go, okay, I can see that. You've got to admit, though, some of these screen caps are pretty convincing and don't look the best in this context. Like, why would you even need to point out that a dip in the pool is great after a scat session because the chlorine's a great cover for the smell of poop? That's just gross, man. Just freaking plain old gross. I'm going to go ahead and say that Nova's post comes off as half truth, half damage control, and there at least was a chat of filthy fucking furries that cracked some nasty ass jokes in the theme of what they're into. Whether or not there was an insidious plot to actually act on this remains to be seen, so let's hope not. I mean, this would imply that FWA staff are at least aware and cognizant of the situation, will be on the lookout to shut that shit down should anything actually happen. Cue someone throwing a brownie or Snickers bar into the pool to freak everybody out. I'd love to see that. So with the added context, this scenario didn't really seem to exist beyond the reactive imaginations of those that bought into a scaremongering shitpost. Aight. Good thing we got the straight dope and I don't have to look like an idiot swearing this absolutely would happen when it wouldn't. Though this all kind of hinges on NovaCat being honest, sincere, and trustworthy in his flaky explanation that reassured some, but didn't reassure everyone out there. I have no reason to doubt the authenticity of his claims insofar as, no, there's no plot out there to shit in FWA's pool. But the rest? You do you, buddy. As for those who try to guilt trip people like Kimbah or Corey for hate-mongering against the sub-community for their kink or fetish, people actually gave Corey and Kimbah some heat for being all, you're kink-shaming, and that's bad, nah. And it's like, buddy, there's kink-shaming. And then there's being absolutely fucking disgusting. And this is absolutely fucking disgusting. So I think Corey and Kimbah are alright. And you all are just being fucking ridiculous. The same community within the community that is the furry fandom that gets shit on for what they're into? I say, accept the fact that they're people like you or I. Well, maybe not like you or I. But they're still people at the end of the day. They just have a fucked up fetish that helps get them off. And so long as they don't share that fucked up fetish with the rest of us, and they can take care and clean up after themselves, hey, that's fantastic. We don't need to know. And I don't want to know. And if you make that fact public, most people absolutely will judge you for it and think less of you. Just look at what happened to Blue Wolf. Not encouraging any of you to hate on her, by the way. Just, if you know the full extent of her story, then you'll know how furries and non-furries alike reacted to her months ago. Anyway, so all this was mentioned about in a post, people just kind of took the idea and ran with it. The damage was already done by that point, even with the added context in NovaCat's post. A multitude of different people were now absolutely convinced that Fecal Week in Atlanta would absolutely be taking place, and to steer clear of the pool at all costs. And those that knew this wasn't real, and knew the full extent of the story behind all this, well, they just about had a field day getting in on all the fun. Posting memes, making off-colored jokes aimed at Furry Week in Atlanta, and acting like something like this was actually going to happen. An artist even drew a little doodle that was just kind of like a, if you know sort of situation. Though another artist was far more explicit in his portrayal of events. Yeah, they ain't no mud bath, champ. The lion shits in the pool at FWA. The lion does not concern himself with the actions of con security. Dose instead of does because poor literacy is cool. Can't say I blame them. But the more you tease at an idea like this, the more I get the feeling that some brain-broken motherfucker's actually going to do the unthinkable and act on it. Were this to actually happen, I'd guarantee it would be reputational suicide, as those involved would be named and shamed publicly for it. But who knows? Maybe they're into that sort of thing. Goes hand in hand with the humiliation fetish I keep hearing about. Getting banned from the convention would be the least of their worries when other venues are informed of their actions and they find themselves banned from other conventions as well. In any case, none of this was to be, if Nova can be believed. Might have been a joke as a hee-hee, ha-ha, would be funny if we could do it and get away with it, but we're not going to do it because we wouldn't get away with it. Probably. Something like this would also be really bad and reflect very poorly on the fandom, tantamount to a Rainfurrest 2.0 sort of situation happening. People were even trying to make that comparison, going so far as to say that Rainfurrest died back in 2015, but will now be reborn in 2025, 10 years after the fact. But let's be honest, anytime there's some drama taking place at a convention, people always crack that joke, or make the claim it will be the next Rainfurrest 2.0. To the point that something like this would be just another piece of drama in a pile of dramas. You know how much debauchery and degeneracy takes place at hotels or those places where furries tread? A lot, especially behind the scenes. Let's be thankful and hopeful that this is just going to exist as our little inside joke, and we hopefully never have to acknowledge it again. Alright? Because it's worth remembering that whenever we go to a convention, we do so at the mercy of the hotels or convention spaces that are willing to house and host us for the weekend. A Rainfurrest situation would hurt that relationship between we and the hotel or convention space. No space means no hotel means no convention, our money's not good here anymore, and so on. So it'd be nice not to piss the hotel off that's nice enough to host us for the weekend. Granted, someone kind of went out of their way to facilitate Rainfurrest's downfall. Believe it or not, I actually knew who supposedly did it. And I'd seen them at a room party and had seen them throughout the convention back at MFF. Though they kind of dropped out of the public eye later on. They got all weird, which, not a big surprise, right? Anyway, getting to talk about all this in full, this whole thing, right? This whole thing feels more like a troll move to jostle the fandom's jimmies, but it's still kind of a lose-lose proposition. Either there's someone demented and unhinged enough that's willing to try and pull this shit, or the people that tried to sound the alarm on this non-existent event were all being played for fools. Either way, it's not good. Imagine if this ploy was put into action. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is 1. Shit in the pool. 2. Get away with it undetected. Yeah, the minute enough people spot you and point you out to con staff or security, let alone the lifeguard, enough people are going to know who you are and you're going to get found out. So do everybody a favor and don't even think about it. This means you. So in conclusion, if Catman can be believed, this entire situation was a massive overreaction by all concerned of a non-existent plot built on some taken out of context screenshots. A big ol' nothing burger. But also an embarrassment for some, and a meme for the furry fandom history books for everyone else. A meme that was helped along by enough people that believed that an event relating to shit in the swimming pool would absolutely be taking place, contributing memes, artwork, and beware posts about it. But if you're attending FWA, maybe, just maybe, skip the trip to the pool this time, just in case. Ain't nothing worse than crudules and nudules of someone else's fecal matter just kind of floating in the water and potentially sticking to you. No amount of showers will ever wash that out. As one of my viewers once said, a shower is temporary. Nasty ass poo water is forever. Yuck!